Right, let's go into our player rating. Let's start off with Big Vic. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him an 8, and I thought he was vital to cling on to that point as well last night. Really good saves. One from Antonio for the 1-on-1. Free kick as well from Ward-Prowse. I actually haven't seen that free kick back but when I was watching it in the stands, I mean, it looked like an unbelievable save. And I felt as well in the second half, particularly when they had corners, he hit a few nice moments where punching out those corners where we know how dangerous they are and how poor we are at defending them. So he did well to relieve the pressure at times.
Yeah, there has been some suggestion that he could have done better with the goal we conceded, but I watched it back. I don't know what more I don't know what really he could do unless he really comes for that cross. I don't know if he could have. He obviously made some crucial saves from Antonio, from Ward-Prowse, from Antonio from the 1-on-1. In terms of the finishing from West Ham, I think they were fairly comfortable saves, apart from obviously the one from Antonio, which was in a 1-on-1 situation, but obviously it was a really poor finish from Antonio as well. So I think all the saves he made, I don't think any of them were massively above routine, but he still had to make them, and he was crucial in all those facets. Did what he was asked to do to a really high standard. But yeah, still from corners, he looked good from a lot of them where he was able to punch, but also the 2 chances we did concede, he didn't look fantastic, albeit he was put under pressure. So I thought all in all, it was a pretty good day for Big Vic.
Pedro Porro up next. 7s all round for Pedro. I thought defensively he was absolutely brilliant, Pedro Porro, yesterday. He stifled anything that came down that side, countless amount of tackles and interceptions down that side as well. I just felt like going forward he could have impacted the play a bit more, to be fair, but from a defensive standpoint I was really happy with him. Yeah,
I think the stat reads, you know, he got into positions to cross 7 times and couldn't find any accurate crosses. Now, whether that's his fault or whether we didn't have a presence in the box, albeit that'll be frustrating to him. I thought he did deal with Kudus really well. There were a number of times he was able to pinch the ball off him. Kudus is a very, very good dribbler, and I thought he dealt with him very effectively. I think Kudus was fairly well nullified, even though he threatened to impact the game. I thought Porro dealt with him, and I thought he did get forward well, and he got into really good positions, but unfortunately West Ham was too difficult to find any chances. So he'll be annoyed that when he got into those positions he couldn't be more effective. But I thought all in all it was a pretty positive game from Porro.
Yeah. Cuti Romero up next. Sim gives him an 8. I gave him a 7. I thought it actually was a really good display from Romero last night. He was stepping into midfield. He was trying to start the attacks. He was dictating from the back as well. Countless amount of block shots. I think 2 or 3 block shots from Cuti Romero last night. And I just felt he handled Antonio really well for the most part. What I was a bit frustrated with Cuti Romero was the amount of time it takes him to pass the ball and get the ball moving. A lot of the times he just gets the ball and he just delays and delays and delays and delays. Maybe it's due to his teammates not moving around and creating the space for him, but I just felt like it took us quite a while to play that ball out the back sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know if it was instruction, because that's something I've pointed out Van de Ven does sometimes as well. So I don't know whether it's just he takes a beat just to allow players to get in position before we get going or stuff like that, or is it a case of we should be playing a lot quicker? I'm not 100% sure, but I did think when he did release the ball, he did it with high quality, and he played some really, really nice passes. I thought defensively he was really strong as well. As you say, apart from that one chance over the top from Antonio, they didn't create too much from open play. So I thought all in all, really positive display from Romero, and he tried to, you know, force some attacking situations. Didn't quite happen, but I thought he had a really great game overall.
Yeah, Mickey van der Ven up next. Sim gives him an 8. I gave him a 7. Again, another really top display from Mickey van der Ven. I thought he was mopping up so well. Every time West Ham looked like they were on the counter, looked like they were through on goal, up steps Mickey van der Ven, and he's just there in a flash. And without even a hesitation, he just goes and nicks the ball off you. So many last-ditch challenges, which I thought were brilliant. It was his mistake that led to Antonio going one-on-one with the keeper where he slips, which was unfortunate for him. And if I'm being really harsh, I'll say his defending from the corner as well. Maybe he could have jumped a bit earlier. It seems like he jumped way too late, and maybe he could have got it, but maybe that's just really harsh.
Yeah, I have to watch the cornerback. I wasn't sure if that was on him, but I thought he was pretty exceptional overall from Van de Ven. I thought a big reason why West Ham weren't able to hurt us on the counter in behind, whether that was through Bowen or Antonio, was because Van de Ven was just there every single time to make sure that they're not getting in behind all that space. I think his pace really helped us. He had that moment with Antonio. Unfortunately, I think he did slip, and that nearly did cost us. But other than that, and that was even more unfortunate because because he did get back in position at the time and did really well to get ahead of Antonio, and then unfortunately slipped. So that can happen sometimes. I thought it was a pretty good display yet again from Van der Ven, and really great to have him back in the team.
Yeah. Next up, Destiny Udogie, 7s all round for Destiny. Again, I thought defensively, for the most part, he was really good. The number of duels, I think he won 7 out of his 10 duels last night. Countless amount of tackles. He was, as well, being really aggressive. They had to foul him to really do anything against him. So I thought he was really good, and he was involved in the build-up to our goal as well. But apart from the build-up to our goal, I thought he could have done a bit more going forward, and he didn't really link up with Werner too much.
Yeah, there are a few occasions they did link up, but without really, obviously, getting into positions where they could hurt West Ham, which is unfortunate. I thought Bowen, by and large, was nullified as well. He did have an influence of the game, but it was more from set pieces than it was from open play. So I'm not going to put that on Destiny. I thought Destiny actually handled him pretty well in open play, and there was a few occasions where he was where Bowen was running at him, but he just couldn't get past Destiny. And as well, Destiny did his trademark gallops up the pitch, which West Ham also struggled to deal with as well. And those are really, really effective when we're trying to, you know, get towards West Ham's penalty box. And that's why a lot of the time in the build-up we were very, very effective. But unfortunately, couldn't make it pay. But I did think Udogie had a pretty good game.
Yeah, Yves Bissouma up next. Him gives him an 8. I gave him a 7. I see a bit of a theme going on with these ratings, or maybe every ratings, to be fair. But I actually thought Bissouma was really good, and best performance in a while for Yves Bissouma. You know, he was mopping up everything in the middle of the park. It was really hard for West Ham to really assert their dominance in the midfield, and I thought Bissouma was a key factor to that. And even as the game wore on, you could see the confidence starting to reap through him, and he started driving forward and becoming maybe not the Bissouma of those first 8 games, but definitely a massive step in the right direction, and glimpses of that old Bissouma coming through in this game. Yeah,
and I think it was a really positive display from Bissouma, looking a lot more confident, taking a bit more risk and actually getting the reward for that. I thought West Ham struggled to get past him and deal with him. I think defensively in the transitions he was really, really good, and I think we actually pressed really well, and I think Bissouma was marshalling that really effectively. So yeah, really good display from Bissouma, and one of our better players on the day.
Rodrigo Bentancur up next, 6s all round for Rodri. And look, first 15-20 minutes, he was probably the best player on the pitch. The way he was getting the ball on the half-turn, involved in the goal, involved in everything good Spurs were doing going forward in the first 15 or so minutes. But after that, I just felt like he did diminish in the game. I thought Paquetá was growing in influence, and I thought Bentancur was probably a big reason for that. And his misplaced passes just really frustrated me and played us into massive trouble, and we were lucky that they didn't score from any of them.
Yeah, I think there was one obviously glaring one which is on the edge of the area. I think by and large, I thought he had a pretty good game, actually. I thought he was exceptional in those first 20 minutes. They couldn't live with him, with his dribbling ability, breaking their press, charging forward. Obviously, he was heavily involved in the build-up to the opening goal as well, and he was looking like he was going to be one of those performances where he announces himself back into form. Didn't quite work out that way, unfortunately, for the rest of the game. I still think he did more good than bad, but obviously the bad was pretty glaring, and that he's got to be called out for that. It was some really sloppy play, which could have, on a different day, hurt us a lot more. I still think he was doing some really good stuff, especially defensively. I thought he was pressing really effectively, winning the ball back in some really good positions for us. And I thought West Ham, by and large, didn't like playing against him. But unfortunately, the performance got marred by a few sloppy moments, which could have been costly.
Yeah. James Maddison up next. Sims gives him a 6. I gave him a 5. I thought off the ball, again, he put in a good display, you know, dropping deep, winning the ball back. But then when asked to really provide that incisive cutting edge, create those chances, I don't think he did enough yesterday in the game, and we were begging out for someone to try and pick the lot, try to take a shot, and he failed to do that. Got taken off. Would I say rightly so? Maybe if he got taken off maybe 15 minutes before that, it probably would be rightly so, but I felt like in those last 15-10 minutes before he got taken off, he was growing into the game, and if anything could have happened, maybe it could have happened through him, and in the gaps that started to appear in the last 10 minutes, he probably would have been vital for us to score that goal later on and grab that winner. So maybe it was a bit unfortunate he was taken off, but I think for the most part that he was on the pitch, he didn't provide enough for us going forward.
Again, I think like a lot of the players on the pitch, I think he was doing a lot of good stuff before the final third. When it came to trying to use Maddison's best assets, which is, you know, his ability, his final passing ability, his shooting ability. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the best out of those assets yesterday, and that is obviously what he's going to be judged on. I do think, in general, he did some really good things, especially in the build-up play. I thought he was getting into those pockets of space really effectively and trying to find little different ways of ingenuity to break down that West Ham backline and find those moments of quality. But whenever he did get a shot off, he was blocked and charged down. Whenever he did try to find those assists, it was really hard to break down that West Ham backline. So I feel for him. I think it was a very difficult game, but I did think in general there was a lot of good stuff in the build-up play. But obviously, when a player like Maddison comes off the game without really impacting stuff in the final third, that's what he's going to be judged on.
Brennan Johnson up next, sevens all round. Started the game as, you know, he's been playing over recent weeks. Got that goal. Really good run into the box, and Timo Werner found him in the middle there. And obviously we were 1-0 up after the first few minutes. I felt like if anything good was going to come through Spurs, it was going to come through Brennan Johnson. I felt like he was the brightest spark out of our attacking trio. He got a few good balls in the box, but no one was there to really gamble and put the ball in the back of the net or connect with it at all. So I was happy with Brennan Johnson's performance, but you know, maybe the other attacking players just weren't on his wavelength, or maybe it's just the West Ham low block was just stifling us a bit too much. Yeah,
and these are the kind of games where you think Johnson's going to struggle even more because the space is restricted, and that's where he likes to play, with a lot of space in front of him, running at players. So it was always going to be a difficult day for Johnson, but I actually thought he coped with it fairly well. I actually thought as well he was confident enough to not just drive down the byline, but also try and dribble in the central areas when he can, trying to find pocket of space. And unfortunately, he got a bit of joy, but didn't quite come off for him when it came to the final moments to get a shot off or play that final pass. He was finally crowded out, but at least he had the confidence to try, and it nearly paid off. So I want to see him do more of that going forward. I did think there was some quality stuff from him, which unfortunately his teammates didn't take benefit from, which was a shame. But I was pretty happy with Brendan actually overall.
Yeah. Timo Werner up next, sixes all round from us. Obviously that really brilliant assist in the first few minutes of the game for Brennan Johnson, like I spoke about before. But apart from that, I just was quite frustrated with him. He didn't get on the ball, he didn't strike his stuff, he didn't put balls into the box. I mean, I failed to see what he really did apart from that assist in the first few minutes.
Yeah, and I think he had opportunities to drive at the defender, which Brennan was taking up, but Timo seemed reluctant to at times, especially when he had space in front of him on a few occasions. I think he did cause them a bit of trouble at times, but not enough to really say that he had a good game. Obviously, it was a really good assist, and it was a classic Timo Werner assist underhand, you know, that classic cut into on his right and then checking back onto his left and across the face of goal. And he's clearly able to do that to a pretty good standard. I think that's his third assist like that, or fourth assist, I would say, this season. So that's really good from Timo. But need to see it on more than one occasion during a game, and it's unfortunate that it came so early, and then for the rest of the game wasn't able to impact it in the same way.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the rating, I gave him 6. If he doesn't get that assist in the first few minutes, I'm probably giving him a 5 or a 4. So I think that assist did save him in terms of the ratings. Last but not least of the starting lineup, Heung-min Son, 5s all round for us for Sonny, and it was just a really frustrating day for Sonny. He was like double marked every time he got the ball. Every time West Ham players just charging towards him, he found it really hard to create those spaces for him, because there was no space whatsoever in those areas of the pitch. So I did feel like maybe that did highlight the problems that we do have with Sonny against the low block, and maybe a physical presence in the box would have done a bit better for us, so we can go for other avenues to attack the ball, maybe float crosses in, so we can you know, go for the headers and stuff like that, which you just can't do when Heung-min Son's up against the low block. So it did stifle us a little bit. It wasn't for the want of trying, because he was trying throughout the game really hard, but it was just he was up against, you know, really physical defenders, and so many of them as well. So it was just an uphill battle for Heung-min Son from the beginning.
Yeah, I think one of those days was just a very difficult day for Sonny, unfortunately. I did think there were some occasions where he's got the ball in those tight spaces, and he's actually doing some really good work finding a teammate in those tight spaces, but we just couldn't, again, take advantage of it, because whenever it got to the moment to pull the trigger, he was being blocked. I felt like they definitely had a concerted effort to make sure that Son wasn't able to get a shot off. Whenever he got the the ball. They were crowding him out, 2-3 players at a time, and that was very, very difficult for Sonny to deal with. There was a couple of occasions as well where he did shape to shoot from outside the box, but again was closed down and decided against it. Obviously, when he comes off the game and he's not been so effective, the discourse is going to be about whether he should be playing number 9 in these kind of games. And I think it's a fair conversation, because he did struggle to impact the game. And Zuma, whenever it was a physical battle between those two, Son did come off second best. So, sorry, that was unfortunate. But I do think on another day, if his touch was a bit better on a couple of occasions, he might have been able to get a shot off. But maybe, I don't know whether it was fatigue or he was just crowded out. He wasn't able to impact the game in the way that we know he can.
Yeah, I mean, I have said it many a time. We've had all these conversations on panel shows and stuff like that where I think we're in agreement that Son is the best number 9 at this football club. But however, he is also the best left winger at this football club too. So when we come up against teams, what you're going to know, what you're going to get with West Ham, you know you're going to get a low block, and you know you're going to get a really physical game. So maybe in these kind of games we should be playing Son out on the left, and maybe Richarlison should have started the game to give us a bit more of a physical presence in the box. But that's not what happened, so it is what it is. But let's move on to our substitutes. We've got 2 players to rate. First up is Pape Matar Sarr. 6 is all round for Pape. I thought he came on and gave us a bit more energy in the midfield when we needed it, but in terms of like trying to drive the team forward, I don't think there was enough in there.
Yeah, I think he maintained the control for us. I think he was doing some good. He was basically doing a lot of the good work Bentancur was doing without sloppy passes, essentially, in that period. I think it was a pretty good cameo from him, but unfortunately couldn't find their moment even with him on the pitch.
Yeah, and last but not least of the playing staff is Dejan Kulusevski. I think for the first time this season, Sim's rated him lower than me, but Sim gave him a 4, I gave him a 5, and he was very frustrating. He came in on the middle, then moved out onto the right-hand side after Brennan Johnson got taken off, and I just felt like every time he got the ball was just really frustrating. He couldn't make anything happen apart from in that last minute when Destiny Udogie had that chance. He put in a nice cross that fell to Lo Celso, and Lo Celso played a really nice ball back to Udogie. But apart from that moment, he just left you feeling really frustrated every time he got the ball.
Yeah, obviously everyone remembers that counter-attack which he screwed up right at the end, and that was really, really poor decision-making from Decky. We had a really good opportunity at that moment. Maybe if he could hang on to the ball a bit longer, not panic like he did, and try and find Richarlison in the back post, maybe wait for the more runs from Son and I think the player supporting, there could have been an opportunity there. So that kind of lack of composure from Decky was really frustrating on that moment. There were a couple of more occasions as well where he'll feel disappointed he didn't do better with in general play. There was some good stuff, especially again when we're getting to the tight spaces and he's holding players off, and I think he won a free kick in a good position, and he was actually making some really good tackles. But I think again when it came to show quality, it was a very frustrating cameo from Decky, and a lot of people are calling him out. I'm not as harsh as some of the other people that I've seen on social media on his performance, but I did think I can't get away from the fact that at crucial moments he lacked composure.
Yeah. The other subs, Højbjerg, Richarlison and Lo Celso. I thought Højbjerg came in and put in a fairly positive cameo as well. I thought he really tried to act as that driving force for Tottenham going forward. So I was happy with Højbjerg's performance. I mean, Richarlison, there was fairly... did he even have a touch, Richarlison, when he came on? I failed to see what he did.
Yeah, he had a few touches, but didn't have any shots.
Yeah. 4 touches he had. And Giovanni Lo Celso, what a great touch that was to get it to Udogie, wasn't it, in the last minute? But yeah, he didn't really have too much time. But let's finish off talking about Ange Postecoglou. We both give him a 6. And look, got to give him credit for the way he set us up, because we did dominate the game. We had about 70% possession, and if anyone looked like we were the ones dominating the game. But he's got to figure out different solutions how to break down these low block teams, because it seems as though an all familiar story, particularly against low blocks. And I felt the changes that he made, like Richarlison, I felt came on a bit too late. I was calling for Richarlison to come on a bit earlier. And I think the changes that he did make didn't positively really change the game. And when Kulusevski came on for Maddison, I think it was, that was when Maddison was probably having his best moment in the game. So I think that change was a bit perplexing. But yeah, it was a bit of good and bad in there from Ange.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think Richarlison definitely should have come earlier. His game was definitely calling for Richarlison, especially the way he plays, and that was quite frustrating that he waited to the last 10 minutes or so, or 5 minutes to bring him on, so he should have brought him on a lot earlier. I thought the other subs, I don't have too many complaints. I do think Maddison should have stayed on for a bit longer. Maybe instead of bringing Sarr on, you could have brought Decky on for Bentancur and really gone for West Ham stroke. Maybe if we had that little bit more of ingenuity, could have broken them down. Because I felt like West Ham weren't offering too much going the other way. But I understand, you know, with their counter-attacking options, you're always a bit wary of that. So, but maybe that was the thinking there.
Maybe he could have brought on Gio for Bentancur when he brought on Sarr.
Yeah. So maybe just gone with 2 number 10s and really taken the game to them. So that was a bit frustrating. But other than that, I thought we did play well. And I do think we were trying different avenues. It was just very, very difficult for Spurs to break him down. I don't think it was for the want of trying or trying different things. I just think on the day we weren't good enough, and I think we've got to accept that.
Yeah. All right, well, that is our player ratings. Let me know your ratings in the comment section below.